What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1, and we're continuing our 2025 predictions here. The Miami Hurricanes up next, coming off of a really good season. I mean, obviously missed out on the college football playoff, had that disappointing loss at the end of the year, but still, it was a really solid year for Miami last year. Of course, it was an amazing offense and a struggling defense. So what will it look like this year? Before we get into this team, into these predictions, let's take a look at just how our predictions have looked with Miami the last 3 years. Again, we just do this to remind you of where this team has finished the last 3 years, what their record has been, and also, have I been too high or too low on this team? And obviously in 2022, we don't want to talk about that. That was the crazy year that I, for whatever reason, thought that Miami was going to go to the college football playoff. I don't even remember why I was high on that team now. But yeah, obviously missed the mark big time in 2022, but been pretty good the last 2 years. 2023, I was one game over their record. I'm at 8-4. They went 7-5, and I had them at 10-2 last year. They did go 10-2. So hopefully we can continue that and not go back to a prediction like 2022. It's definitely a boomer bust team. When you look at this Miami team, as we'll get into the schedule here and go through the predictions. But first, just my thoughts on this team. But yeah, they're a boomer bust team. You've got Carson Beck, who has at times shown that he could be one of the top quarterbacks in all of college football, but then at other times, throws a lot of interceptions. Receivers obviously didn't really let him down at Georgia last year, so we've just seen really inconsistent play from Carson Beck. He's just talking about boomer bust. He's one of the biggest boomer bust quarterbacks, I would say, in all of college football. So you've got that. Your running back situation should be fine. And then the receivers. You're going to have a lot of young receivers that are going to have to step up. We'll see if they can do that. That will be a big question mark for this Miami team as well. Probably the biggest, I would say, just the passing game overall. That's going to be the biggest question mark, even more so than the defense that struggled last year. I think the offensive line won't be elite, but they'll be solid. I think the defensive line has a chance to be elite. I think that's the strength of this team when I look at the roster. And they've got talent at linebacker. They've got talent in the secondary. New coaching staff on defense. So we'll see if it all comes together. I think they have a chance to be really good on defense, but they also have a chance to not be so good if they can't, kind of improve from where they were last year. So the defense, I mean, it's just boomer bust across the board for this Miami team. I think it's a team that can make the college football playoff, and I think it's a team that could finish 6-6. I really could see it going either way or possibly in the middle of that. It's just a lot of question marks, and we'll see how it plays out here in 2025 for the Hurricanes. All right, so now let's get into the predictions. We'll start with this first game against Notre Dame. Sunday night game. All eyes will be on this one. Should be a great matchup. I think the teams are pretty even. I do think Notre Dame's a little bit better than Miami, but not by a lot. When you look at the rosters, you look at the talent, I don't think there's a huge gap between these two teams. I think it's a close game. I think Miami will come to play in this one. I think the run game for Notre Dame might be a little bit too much for this Notre Dame defense. I think for this Miami defense, I should say. I think the Notre Dame run game kind of wears them down as we go through the game. And I think the defensive line for Notre Dame is going to have an advantage. They're going to be really good up front and overall just really good on defense. So I think Notre Dame does win this game. I think it's close, but I could see them maybe kicking a field goal late to go up by 10, and that's kind of the difference in this game. Something like that. But I think it'll be a competitive game. Miami has a chance. I think, again, if Carson Beck plays really, really well, Miami could win this game. But I'm going to go with Notre Dame. And then I think, obviously, they beat Bethune-Cookman in an easy one in week 2. You got South Florida next, week 3. This one shouldn't be too much of a challenge. I think Miami takes care of business there, and that gets them to 2-1. Then you got Florida September 20th. Pretty even matchup when I look at these two rosters. I don't see, any big difference. I think these are both top 15 teams, potentially top 10 teams this year. I think it's a very close game, very competitive. It's a revenge game for Florida. That's going to kind of go in their favor, but it's a home game for Miami. So that's, those I think could kind of cancel each other out if we're talking about, kind of X factors in this game. I do think, though, we talked about it earlier, I think Miami's strength is their defensive line. That's going to be the best unit on this team. And I think teams that beat Miami are teams that are going to have really good offensive lines potentially. And I think Florida has that. I think this is going to be one of the better offensive lines in the country. So I think Florida's offensive line can handle the Miami defensive line. At least that's a stalemate, in my opinion. And if you take away that strength of Miami's defense, unless they get a lot better on the back end, I think you can take advantage of some plays down the field. DJ Lagway throws a really good deep ball. So I just think this matchup favors Florida a little bit. It's very close. I mean, it's almost like flip a coin, but I'm going to go with the Gators. I think Florida wins this game over Miami. Then they go to their first bye week, and they get a bye week before and after Florida State. So they should have all of their focus on the Seminoles here in this one. It is on the road. It is a rivalry game, so I expect it to be pretty close. I don't think Miami's going to blow them out, but I do think Miami is still Florida State's going to be better this year, in my opinion, but I don't think they're going to be way better. I don't think they're going to be a top 25 team. And so, again, rivalry game, a better Florida State team. I think because of that, it's close. But Miami is just still across the board a better football team. And again, with a bye week before and after this game, I think Miami comes in really focused, already with 2 losses, kind of, backs against the wall. You got to step up here. Can't lose another game if they want to make the college football playoff. I think they play really well. I think they beat Florida State and they get to 3-2. Then they have that second bye week before playing Louisville on a Friday night. Friday night, short week, but you get a bye week the week before. So you like to see that on the schedule. You like to have a bye week before those Thursday or Friday games. Louisville's going to be a solid football team. I think they're maybe a dark horse in the ACC, but I think that, again, we talked about the strength of this team being the Miami defensive line. I don't think Louisville's offensive line is going to be able to handle them up front. I think Miami's defensive line will cause some problems there. Louisville's defense, I don't think they're going to be good enough to shut down Miami's offense. I think Miami is able to score enough in this game, and I think they win on a Friday night at home over Louisville, and that gets them to 4-2. Then you got Stanford October 25th at home. Stanford not going to be very good. I think this is an easy win, so we'll give them that one, and that puts them at 5-2. Then you've got SMU November 1st on the road. I think people are counting out this SMU team, and they think that last year was a fluke. They're going to be back to a 7-5, 8-4 type team this year. I don't know if that's the case. I look at this SMU team, I think they're going to be really good again. I'm not saying playoff, but I think they're going to be good. They're going to have a great offensive line. I mean, we're talking maybe top 5 offensive line in all of college football. They are really going to be good up front when you look at this roster. They've got playmakers on offense. Jennings at quarterback is going to be very tough to stop. We know how he can run around, make plays. And I just think this SMU team is really good, and they're playing at home. And again, that great offensive line will counter the great Miami defensive line, and SMU will win this game. So I'm going to go with the Mustangs, and that's probably going to knock Miami out of playoff contention. But you never know. If they go 9-3, they do have a tougher schedule this year. You got Syracuse next, November 8th. Revenge game for Miami after last year's game. I do not think Syracuse is going to be very good this year. I think it's kind of a rebuild. I do think the future is bright with Syracuse, but I think this is kind of a rebuild year. I think Miami really the better team across the board. I think they're able to get this win. I think they win it fairly easily. Again, they come out in this revenge game and get the win to get to 6-3. Then you got NC State November 15th at home. This should be a good game. NC State's going to be, in my opinion, a little bit better this year. I think they're going to have a good front seven, a good defense overall, and I think that could really force Miami to have to throw the football. And I think it will be on Carson Beck and these receivers. I think Miami's defense will keep them in this game. And again, I think Carson Beck, he'll have a few good games. I feel pretty confident that there will be some games where he plays really, really well. Maybe this is one of those. They're able to make some plays through the air and win. But I think it'll be close. I think that is going to be, a lot of close games, I think, for Miami this year, which is nothing new, of course, if you go back to last season. You got Virginia Tech on the road next, November 22nd. Virginia Tech kind of in a rebuild mode, new coach. I don't think that they're going to be great this year. That's a tough place to play, obviously. I think Miami, though, is the better team, and I think Carson Beck, being the veteran that he is, he'll have this team ready to go on the road and get this win. And they beat Virginia Tech. And they close things out with back-to-back road games. So after you go up to Virginia, then you got to go up to Pittsburgh, play them in a road game. What I like here is I think Miami's defensive line will have a nice day here, but this Pitt defense is going to be really, really good. And so I think this is a low-scoring game, a defensive battle. Both teams going to be trying to run the football. It's more than likely going to be cold. I just think all of those things play into Pittsburgh's advantage here. I think Pitt gets this win, so I'm going to go with the Panthers, and then that's going to put Miami at 8-4. So that's where I've got this team. Again, like I said, it's a boom or bust team. They could, just looking at this schedule, they could, I would say 10-2 is probably their best case scenario, and I think that would get them in the playoff this year. I think they could win a couple of these games that I've got them losing. So yeah, I think they could get up to about 10-2, but at the same time, Florida State's a rivalry game. Louisville's going to be, a tough one. NC State and Virginia Tech could be a little bit tricky. So I could see them dropping down to maybe a 6-6. So I'm right in the middle of that at 8-4. Again, 6-6 to 10-2, that's kind of the range. But I think this team's able to get to 8-4. I would say that I think 9-3 is more likely than 7-5. If I was going to change one of these games around, I'd probably give them the win over Pitt. And get them to 9-3. So I think that's a very realistic prediction for this team as well. But I'm going to go with 8-4. I just think that, again, some question marks with the receivers, the passing game, what's it going to look like? Defense, can they really improve that much? We'll see. But a pretty tough schedule as well. I think all that equals an 8-4 record. But we'd love to get your thoughts, your predictions on this team. Let me know what you think down in the comments below.